Just outside of Dublin lies a place known to locals as the Vanishing Triangle. Between 1993 and 1998, in this 80-mile area, 8 women suddenly and inexplicably disappeared, never to be seen or heard from again. Despite extensive media campaigns and large-scale searches by the Irish police, none have ever been found. Annie was an American from Long Island, New York, an only child with a lifelong interest in her Irish heritage. In 1993, she immigrated to Dublin to do a diploma course so she could get a job teaching in Ireland. She landed in Ireland in January of 1993 and rented a flat in the Sandymount area of Dublin. She took a part-time job in a restaurant and shared the flat with 2 Irish women. On Friday, the 26th of March in 1993, the day before her 27th birthday, Annie went to a local AIB bank where she was seen on CCTV waiting in the queue. She then went to a nearby Kinsworth supermarket and picked up groceries for an arranged dinner party that she was having with friends the next day, on her birthday. She then invited a friend to go with her to spend a day in the Wicklow Mountains, but her friend was unable to come, so McCarrick decided to go alone. She was sighted on the 44 bus from Ranelagh to Enniskerry at 3:40 p.m. This would be the last confirmed sighting of her. Sometime between 9 and 11 p.m., Annie was supposedly seen in Johnny Fox's pub, a popular tourist spot in the Dublin Mountains, approximately 4 miles from Enniskerry, with an unknown man who was in his 20s and wearing a waxed jacket. A doorman working in Johnny Fox's at the time claimed he saw Annie entering with a man who paid for her entrance fee, as she hadn't realized there was a €2 cover charge. He also claimed that Annie was looking around after entering the pub, as if looking for someone already there. Both the man and Annie were seen at the pub till the evening. However, no one saw Annie leave the pub, and the man who was with her has never been identified. Annie has never been seen since. On that same day, she was supposed to pick up her paycheck, but she never did. The following day, friends showed up at Annie's house to celebrate her birthday, but she wasn't there. Shortly after, they contacted her parents, John and Nancy McCarrick, in New York, and they reported her missing to the police. A large-scale search was immediately launched for Annie. Annie's parents arrived in Ireland shortly after Annie was reported missing. A composite sketch of the man seen with Annie was distributed around the city, but Annie was never found. Three months later, 39-year-old Eva Brennan left her parents' house in Rathgar, Dublin, and walked down the Templiogue Road to return to her apartment in Rathgar. 2 days later, Eva's father went to her apartment as they had not seen her since she left their house. Eva's family was worried due to the fact that Eva had been depressed prior. After ringing the doorbell and getting no answer, Eva's father went down to the pub the family owned, the Horse and Hound, and asked a barman to help him gain entry into Eva's apartment. They ended up smashing a window to enter her apartment, and they found nothing out of place. There was no sign of Eva. However, her jacket that she was wearing the day she left her parents' house was in her room, so she did make it home that evening. Her family did find that her bag and keys were missing, though. Where she went to after returning from her parents' house remains a mystery. Even though Eva was depressed, her family does not believe she would commit suicide, as she didn't leave a note or give any indication of feeling suicidal. Interestingly enough, the police did not take her disappearance seriously for the first 3 months. After they found out that Eva was missing, her parents went to the police immediately, but were told that because Eva was an adult and there was nothing out of place at her apartment, they couldn't do anything. The police listed her as a missing person, but did nothing else for 3 months. After much protest from the family, police finally decided to gather evidence from her apartment and her parents' home, but unfortunately, all vital evidence at that point was lost. Garda have been criticized on their handling of Eva's disappearance, and she remains missing to this day. Imelda Keenan, 22, was originally from Mount Mellick County, Laos. Imelda attended the Central Technical Institute in Waterford, where she undertook a computer course for a short period. Imelda was living with her boyfriend, Mark Wall, in Waterford City. They both lived in an apartment in the town on William Street. On January 3, 1994, Imelda told Wall that she was going to the post office. She left the apartment at 1:30 p.m. and walked down William Street onto Lombard Street. She was last seen by a local doctor's secretary who knew her well while crossing the road near Tower Hotel. She was never seen again. Josephine Dullard, known as JoJo to her friends and family, was a 21-year-old beautician from Cuffs-Grange County, Kilkenny. She was the youngest of 5 children and lost her parents at a very young age. Her father passed away before she was born, and her mother when she was just 12 years old. On November 9, 1995, JoJo was making her way home from Dublin to Callan, Kilkenny. JoJo had traveled to Dublin to remove herself from the dole, Ireland's unemployed benefits scheme, as she'd gotten a job at Granger's restaurant in her hometown. She had recently dropped out of a beauty therapy course as well after finding it very difficult to juggle work and college. She had missed her bus home to Callan and had to take a bus to Naas County, Kildare instead. She then decided to hitchhike home from there. She was driven from there to Kilcullen and then from Kilcullen to Moon. She was last seen using a payphone from a telephone box in the village of Moon, and through telephone records, police found the call was made at 11:37 p.m. to JoJo's friend, Mary Cullinan. She told her that she was having difficulty getting a lift, but while on that call, a car pulled up, and she hurriedly hung up, saying a lift had arrived. This was the last time she was ever heard from. A short time later, a woman similar to JoJo's description was seen leaving the back door of a dark-colored Toyota Carina-type car. The driver or occupants of this Toyota have never come forward or been traced. There was also an unconfirmed sighting of her walking along the road in Castle Dermot County, Kildare. When she never reached her destination, JoJo's family became concerned and reported her missing to the police. Garda received reports from the first 2 drivers who gave JoJo a lift, one from outside the Garda station in Naas to Kilcullen, and the next from Kilcullen to Moon. The driver who left her in Moon says he left her at the phone box, which was well lit up, and where she intended to call her friend, but the driver or occupants from the drive from Moon to Castle Dermot have never come forward. It is believed that she was abducted between 11:50 p.m. and 12:05 a.m. Despite an extensive search of the area, there was no sign of JoJo, and there was no sign of a struggle along the road in Moon. Later, a taxi driver came forward and claimed that on the morning of the 10th of November 1995, at about 1:20 a.m., while he was driving, he saw a red car with English plates parked at the side of the main road in Kilmacow, 3 miles north of Waterford. He said that one man was urinating beside the car, and suddenly a woman ran from the left-hand rear door out of the car towards the front. She was barefoot and seemed distressed. Then a second man appeared from the back of the car, and he followed the woman, grabbed her by her hair, got her in a bear hug, and then dragged her back to the car. They then took off in the direction of Waterford. Another witness told police that a girl matching JoJo's description was seen in apparent distress in Waterford around 2 or 2:30 a.m. that same night. However, none of these sightings have been confirmed, and JoJo remains missing to this day. Fiona Pender was a 25-year-old hairdresser and part-time model. She was living with her boyfriend, John Thompson, in her apartment in Tullamore County, Offaly. At that time, she was 7 months pregnant and had spent the previous day shopping for baby clothes with her mother in Tullamore. She was in good form and was looking forward to the birth of her baby. On August 23, 1996, John left their apartment to go to work on the family farm between Killy and Mount Mellick. Later that day, one of Fiona's friends called out for Fiona at her flat, but she got no reply. The curtains were drawn and she presumed Fiona might be in bed. The next day, Fiona's family called John because they couldn't get a hold of her. John told them that he hadn't seen her since the previous morning when he left for work. Her family reported her missing to the police. In the following weeks and months, searches took place across the boglands, woods, and rivers. 4 miles of the Royal Canal was drained to no avail. Thompson became the prime suspect in the case, but he consistently denied having any involvement with the disappearance. In April of 1997, Thompson, his 3 sisters, and his father were arrested and held for 12 hours for questioning in relation to the disappearance, but were later released without charge. In a newspaper interview after his arrest, Thompson said he last saw Fiona in their flat, still asleep in bed when he left for work at 6 a.m. He also said she could not have disappeared from a busy town without being seen by someone. Thompson had been going out with Fiona for 3 years, and they had been living together for a year. It is believed she may have left later in a navy t-shirt, white leggings, blue and white trainers, and a pink jacket. In 2008, a small wooden cross bearing the name Fiona Pender was found on the Slieve Bloom Way at the border between Laos and Offaly, which led to the belief that Fiona was buried in the Slieve Bloom Mountains. But searchers by sniffer dogs of the surrounding area failed to locate any trace of the missing woman. The cross was inscribed with the words, Fiona Pender, buried here, August 22, 1996, but police now believe it was placed there as a cruel prank. In the last few years, a woman living abroad has told police that while in a rage, her husband had threatened her and strongly implied that he had killed Fiona and that she, his wife, would be next. The woman even pinpointed an exact location in Ireland where she believed the body was buried. However, the information came to nothing, and no conviction was brought against her husband. A year before Fiona's disappearance, her 22-year-old brother Mark died in a motorcycle accident. In 2000, her father Sean took his own life, a death her mother attributes to his heartbreak over the loss of his 2 children. Fiona's mother had campaigned tirelessly for information on her daughter following her disappearance. She passed away at the age of 68 without knowing what happened to her daughter. Ciara Breen was an 18-year-old from Dundalk County, Louth. On 13th of February 1997, Ciara and her mother, Bernadette, had gone out with her mother to a local cafe, after which they had gone home and watched TV until they went to bed at around 12:25 a.m. At 2 a.m., Bernadette had gotten up to use the bathroom and realized that Ciara was no longer in her bed. The bedroom window was left on the latch, leading to the belief that Ciara had snuck out of the house through the front door for a prearranged meeting, leaving the window open so she could climb back in later. Ciara did not bring any money or clothes with her. Ciara Breen was never seen again. An extensive police investigation at the time failed to locate her. In 2014, 2 credible witnesses came forward with sightings of Ciara from the night she disappeared, and in 2015, a man in his 50s, Liam Mullen, was arrested but was later released without being charged. His arrest led to the search of an area called Balmer's Bog in August and September of 2015, but no traces of Ciara could be found. At the time of her disappearance, a number of witnesses claimed that Ciara had snuck out of her house to meet Mullen, and Mullen was arrested in 1999, but he maintained his innocence up until his death in 2017. The police believe Ciara was murdered on the night she vanished, but have never found her remains. On February 8, 1998, mother of one, Fiona Sinnott, was sitting with her friends in a local pub called Butler's in a small village of Broadway, County Wexford. Fiona's ex-boyfriend, Sean Carroll, was also at the pub. However, he was sitting at the bar alone, smoking and having a pint. Fiona left the pub with her ex-boyfriend and father to her 11-month-old daughter. This was the last time that Fiona was seen in public. She was not reported missing until February 18th because she frequently left for short periods of time. Every Friday, Fiona would get on a bus into Wexford town so she could meet up with her family for coffee. When she failed to show up for the second week in a row, her family reported her missing. During his conversation with investigators, Carroll told them that he had walked Fiona back to her house in Ballyhit, Wexford, and that he had spent the night sleeping on her couch. The next morning, Fiona, who had been complaining of pains in her upper body previously, said she intended on hitching a lift to her physician later that day to talk about the pains. Because Fiona said that she had no money, Carroll told police he had given her €3 and left her house to go to his mother waiting outside in a car for him to take him home. Carroll and his mother then drove back to their family home, which was where Fiona's daughter, Emma, had been staying at the time. This was the last date that anyone would report seeing Fiona alive. Fiona never attended her physician's office that day or any other doctor's, in fact, and no witnesses came forward to prove that she had even attempted to hitch a lift. During a technical examination of Fiona's house, police noticed that it had been stripped bare of a number of her personal belongings. According to retired Detective Sergeant Alan Bailey, there was a, quote, complete absence of clothing and other personal items, indicating that a teenage girl and her 11-month-old daughter were actually living there. Later, locals would report that they had seen a number of black garbage bags outside of the property. A few days later, a farmer came forward to police, stating that he had found a number of black garbage bags containing personal items from Fiona, including documents with her name on them. But the farmer had destroyed the bags as he was under the impression that they were being illegally dumped. The police began to speculate that someone may have tried to stage the house as if Fiona had run away. Some speculated that Fiona had left the country with a Welsh trucker. 2 nights before Fiona disappeared, she had spent the night with a trucker in his cab. The police questioned the trucker, but his alibi checked out, as he was able to prove to investigators that he had been driving in the country when Fiona went missing. He was ruled out as a suspect. According to her friends and family, Fiona was looking forward to celebrating her daughter's first birthday, as well as her sister's upcoming 21st birthday. She even had plans to go to Waterford so she could buy her sister a birthday present. Her family doesn't believe she would have just run away. Information was received after her disappearance suggesting that a male was finding it very difficult to live with the role he had taken in disposing of Fiona's body. The person whom he was confiding in suggested he tipped the police off anonymously about the location of Fiona's body. The distressed male refused to do so, claiming that, including the murderer, only 2 other people knew the exact location of the teenager's body, and tipping the police off would be the same as signing his own death warrant. This male died of a suspected drug overdose in 2001. In 2005, police arrested 3 men and women in connection with Fiona's disappearance, but were later released without any charge. On the 12th of September 2008, a memorial plaque for Fiona was stolen from a cemetery in Our Lady's Island in County Wexford. The marble plaque, which had been cemented onto the wall, was removed the night before it was due to be unveiled. A second plaque has since been erected in the same spot, and this too has been stolen. Fiona remains missing to this day. Deirdre Jacob was 18 years old, from Newbridge County, Kildare, Ireland. A student in London, Deirdre had returned to her family home for the summer months in 1998. On July 28, 1998, at 12 p.m., Deirdre walked from the family home into Newbridge and visited her grandmother's shop. At roughly 12:10 p.m., she went to the AIB Bank in Newbridge and then to the post office. She needed to get a bank draft from her second year of student accommodation in London. She then returned to her grandmother's shop before heading home again via the Barrettstown Road. The last sighting of Deirdre was between 3 and 3:30 p.m. Deirdre was sighted by 8 people, 6 of whom knew her. A man cycled past Deirdre and recognized her. Then 2 people speaking on a footpath said hello as Deirdre passed by. Next, a man walking on a roof recognized Deirdre walking by, and then at the Bog Cross, 2 people up a road saw Deirdre as she crossed the road facing oncoming traffic. She was now just a few minutes from home. Neighbors said that she actually had made it to within just 200 yards of her house, but bizarrely, she never managed to actually get there. When Deirdre did not arrive home by 7 p.m., her family reported her missing. An extensive search for her began that night, but no trace of Deirdre was found. There is extensive CCTV footage of Deirdre walking through the town of Newbridge on the day she went missing, July 28, 1998. When last seen, she was wearing a navy Nike jumper with a white collar and blue jeans and blue Nike running shoes. She was carrying a black bag with CAT written in yellow on the flap. The distinctive bag Deirdre carried that day was never located. It remains a crucial part of the investigation. There are a further 2 sightings of her at a cafe on Tara Street, Dublin, on the 30th and 31st of July, but these sightings have never been confirmed, and she remains missing to this day. As the number of missing young women began to accumulate, the public started to panic. In just 6 years, 8 young women vanished without a trace. In all of these cases, the victims shared some common characteristics. The women were all young, ranging from their late teens to up to 40 years of age, and were described as looking quite young for their ages. In each case, they seemed to vanish inexplicably and suddenly, and, in all of the cases, no substantial clues or evidence of their fate. No shoes, no belts, no purses, no watches, nothing has ever been found, despite large-scale searches and campaigns by the Irish police force. Another important characteristic is that all disappearances occurred in an area which became known in the media as the Vanishing Triangle. The triangle stretches from Wexford in the south to Louth in the north and to Offaly in the west. Due to similarities in the cases, some started to speculate that a serial killer or killers were responsible for all the disappearances. Along with private investigators, a special task force called Operation Trace was formed in 1998 to find the women. Operation Trace drafted in 2 FBI agents to assist in the operation, and together with the National Bureau of Criminal Investigations, NBCI, they examined the files on the missing women. The agents were specialized in profiling serial killers and rapists. They focused on the 6 main vanishings: Annie McCarrick, JoJo Dullard, Fiona Pender, Ciara Breen, Deirdre Jacob, and Fiona Sinnott, and came to the conclusion that the women had likely been murdered. Despite an extensive investigation by the Irish police, Operation Trace, the public, and the families, these women and their abductors have never been identified, although there were some possibly promising leads. One of the most promising suspects was a convicted rapist, Larry Murphy. In 2000, Murphy abducted a woman he was stalking, threw her in his car's trunk, and raped her several times out in the Wicklow Mountains before trying to strangle her to death. He was surprised by 2 hunters who happened upon the scene and intervened, saving the woman. He was convicted and sentenced to 15 years in prison. While Murphy was in jail, the disappearances ceased. it was discovered that Murphy lived and worked in the same area where JoJo Dullard and Deirdre Jacob had vanished. He allegedly also matched the description given for the man last seen with Annie McCarrick, leading some to believe that he may have been involved in some or all of the mysterious disappearances. However, Murphy has maintained that he has nothing to do with the disappearances and has been questioned about the cases on numerous occasions by the police. Murphy, a carpenter, had also completed some work in a shop owned by Deirdre's grandmother, but Deirdre's mother doesn't believe that Larry Murphy was responsible for her daughter's disappearance. Despite all of this, police have never been able to charge Murphy for the disappearances. To date, there's no solid evidence connecting Murphy to the crimes. Another possible suspect was an IRA member who was found to have possibly been with Annie McCarrick on the night she disappeared and divulged secret information to her. Police received information that the man had told another IRA member that he had given Annie a ride from Johnny Fox's pub to a bus station in Bray before her disappearance. It was suspected that he had actually murdered her to keep her quiet and buried her body in the mountains. This man has a history of sexually assaulting children. Suspiciously, the IRA moved the man to France and then later to the US shortly after McCarrick's disappearance. So far, he has not been charged for any of the crimes and remains a free man. Robert Howard, dubbed as Wolfman by the media, is also considered a possible suspect in the case. He was a sex offender who was convicted in 2003 of the 2001 rape and murder of a 14-year-old girl, Hannah Williams, for which he was sentenced to life in prison. He was convicted on numerous rape charges over the years and is a suspect in the murder of a number of women in England and Northern Ireland. He has a long rap sheet, including the sexual assault of a 6-year-old girl and another of a 58-year-old woman. Howard committed these crimes at right about the same time that these women were also disappearing. Howard is also believed to have been in Ireland at the time that Annie McCarrick went missing. However, there's never been enough evidence to link him to the crimes. The Vanishings have been featured in numerous documentaries and books, but due to the lack of evidence and the complexity of the crimes, Ireland's Vanishing Triangle remains unsolved to this day.